All right, lads. How did it start? Well, I suppose it started the same way as it did for most of us. There comes a point where your dad or someone in your family decides that you're old enough to go to the Rovers. My dad, he'd been taken by his dad, my granddad, when he was about 6. He saw Dixie play for Tranmere, 1924. And his dad, my granddad, he'd seen the first league game at Prenton Park, when they started the 3rd Division North in 1921. He saw that. So it was always going to happen, we were a Tranmere family. And so my birthday, my 6th birthday, February the 3rd, 1957. And because I hadn't seen a game, because you didn't see a game unless you went to a game. There was no football on the telly, the cup final maybe. But I wouldn't have bothered watching them really. I think the first cup final I watched was about 1958 or 59, But we'd gone to watch football in the park, because you could watch Birkenhead St Anne's on Cannon Hill in the Wirral combination. Red and white striped shirts, big badge with a swan on. My dad knew someone who was involved with them, John Ellis. He was either the secretary or the trainer, something like that. So you could watch St Anne's, and you used to get quite a lot of people watching them on Cannon Hill. And then on the other side of that field, you had the park cricket ground, and then you had the children's playground across the field in the middle. And then beyond that, there was St Lawrence's ground, Balaclava. St Lawrence's played in green shirts with white sleeves like Hibs. That was the Catholic team, St Lawrence's Catholic Young Men's Society, CYMS. They played on the Balaclava, and it was called a Balaclava because, about 1896 or something, my granddad, when he was a lad, he'd been, and they'd reenacted the Battle of Balaclava on that field, and they'd built some sort of structure and they'd attacked it, and it was some anniversary of the real battle in the Crimean War. So my granddad told me all about it, and that's why that field was called Balaclava. Anyway, they played in different leagues. Lorries played in the Birkenhead and District League, so they never played each other except in cup ties, like the Wirral Senior Cup or the Pike Cup. But those were the only games you could see, because you couldn't go and say, I'll watch United on the telly or Liverpool on the telly. And my mates and me, we would go to the park and we'd kick the ball and we'd play football. And that's how we came to like football. That's how we came to love football, really. We found football by playing in the park or in the backyard or whatever. And, we didn't come to football because of Mo Salah or, some superstar. We came because we liked kicking the ball around. And then and our team was the natural next step. So on my birthday, 3rd of February 1957, my dad decided that I was old enough to go. The day before my birthday, they had a home game against Chesterfield. Now, my mum was okay with me going to that, but my dad was a stickler, and no, you had to be 6. So I didn't go to that one. The first home game after I was 6 was against Darlington. And, man, I tell you what, the rain was unbelievable. And it was so wet. You would have thought Noah's Ark might have come out of Birkenhead Park, So he didn't take me. And the game was abandoned anyway, I think half-time maybe, because it was just so wet, it was ridiculous. So it was a couple of weeks after that, probably about a month after my birthday. They were playing Gateshead in the 3rd Division North. We were having a bad year. And we finished second from bottom. We were re-elected with Chester. And but they were still getting 6,000 or 7,000, decent crowds. The following year they were getting over 10, Anyway, we went, and it was 0-0, and it was, I don't remember anything about the game at all. I mean, it was because but I liked being there, and it was great. The people all around, and the colour, and the smell. There was a smell. It took me a while to realise it was stale tobacco. Everyone around is smoking. It's an old wooden grandstand, and they're all smoking. But the whole thing about the feel of the wooden bench on your arse, and when we started standing closer to the field, down by the railings, the smell of the embrocation, which they used to rub on the legs, on the muscles, God, that would have kept the mozzies away. Anyway, so, when I was little, my dad, he used to like walking to the ground. We lived in Alvanley Place down by Birkenhead Park, a couple of miles, maybe a mile and a half. And he liked walking. But because I was little, he made a concession and he got the bus, number 11 bus. You remember you could get the number 11 bus, come up Park Road East, and the bus stop was opposite Cole Street School, and then you get that bus and it'd take you up to the ground. And it could be a yellow one. It could be yellow or Wallasey. It was a shared route. So anyway, but I can remember the walk step by step. Absolutely, I can remember that. All those years ago. You used to have to walk up Alvanley Place, up our road, and you'd come to the top and you'd cross over Grange Road West, and then there was a little bit of waste ground. And you cross over the bit of waste ground and you're at the bottom of Grange Mount. And at the bottom of Grange Mount, on the other side of the road, there was a newsagent's. It's where we used to get our papers, and we'd get our Football Echo there. So Saturday, 6 o'clock, my dad would say, nip up the shop, get a pink Echo. So I'd go up, and there'd be like a couple of dozen blokes there all hanging around waiting for it's not come yet. Where are they? Amazing, really. The games had only finished at 4:45, and the papers would be there by just after 6. So they'd all be waiting around, and then this van would roar up, and the door would open, the papers would be flung out, and the van would roar off again. And then some bloke would be carrying the papers into the shop, and he'd get the first one, Anyway, I used to love the Football Echo. And then so next to that shop, the paper shop, there was a shop, like a hardware shop, Mr. Dunkley, and he did the paraffin for your paraffin heaters. He had a big handle on the wall, and he'd put your jug underneath, and he'd pull the handle, and this sort of pink liquid would come out. That was the paraffin, And then next to him there was Slingers, and that was a sweet shop. And that was the corner of Henthorne Street, and you walk up Henthorne Street, and on the left on Henthorne Street there was prefabs. They're built after the war. Now, they were only meant to be there for a few years, but they were still there, years later. I had a mate at school who lived in one. And then you come to the end of Henthorne Street, and that's the Westbourne Road. Okay. And opposite the end of Henthorne Street, just opposite, was the Warwick. Oh, God, the Warwick. And what a reputation that place had. And they reckon they used to go there for a pint and a fight. Oh, the Warwick. But I mean, I'm sure in those days, like I'm talking about nearly 70 years ago, 68 years. I mean, there was a big community there. Off Westbourne, there was Ridley Street, Tetbury Street, Warwick Street, all these streets there. All flattened, of course. And when they were all flattened, the Warwick was the last thing standing. It was like one tooth in an old gaffer's gob, and it was like defying the developer. It was as if it was standing there saying, you've knocked all these down, come and knock me down if you think you're hard enough. And oh, God, the Warwick. And so then you walked along, can't remember what the road would have been really, but anyway, you went down this road next to the Warwick, and you crossed over Oxton Road. It would have been Tetbury Street. And the Birkenhead Brewery was there. Birkenhead Brewery, the smell from Birkenhead Brewery, blimey. And you went down this quite steep road into Borough Road, and then you joined the main, the road that went up to the ground, about a mile to the ground from there. And there'd be dozens of blokes and the lads walking up to the football, you know. And because, I mean, you know, you get 7,000 people, maybe 8, and 2/3 of them are going to be walking because they're coming up from the town to the football. So anyway, you walk up Borough Road and you go over Carlton Road. And there was a pub there, the Carlton. Probably, you know, I mean, God, there were stories about that place as well. You know, fellas being flung out the door and snooker cues flying out the window. You know, I mean, they were amazing places. And then you'd go up past the Plaza. The Plaza. Well, I mean, you know, the Plaza was huge. I mean, they reckon it was the biggest cinema in the north of England, the Plaza. And well over 2,000 seats. We used to go there, and I used to go in the balcony. I could never understand why on either side of the screen they had an illuminated clock. What do you have a clock in the cinema for? You know, anyway, they did. They used to have big pop shows there. And at the Ritz on the bottom of Clawton Road, these package tours, you know, they'd get half a dozen people who'd had a hit record and put them together, send them out. And they'd be out for a couple of months. 2 shows a night, you know, 15 minutes each. So I remember one came to the Ritz down the bottom of Clawton Road. It must have been 63 because they had Mark Winter with Venus in Blue Jeans, the Tornadoes with Telstar, and Helen Shapiro, Walking Back to Happiness, and a few others, you know. They got about 15 minutes each. Anyway, so that was the Plaza. And then you went past the Kingsland restaurant, that was there too. That was a bit of a more refined place, you know. Supper club, I think they called it, you know. And they had an act, that someone who played the organ, and then you went up past where the technical college was built, and it's gone now, isn't it? And then you crossed over Sinclair Avenue, and then you were on the final approach. You know, you were coming towards the ground, and then there was a lot of people then walking up, and they'd be coming down the side streets, you know, onto Borough Road, walking. Like it was like little streams joining a big river, you know what I mean? And in them days, you could walk past your mate's house and just knock on the door. You come in the game, Charlie. Oh, I might do. Well, come on. And you could do that. You could just say, oh, well, we'll go. Yeah, I mean, you could even do it with Liverpool and Everton. You could just say, well, we're going to go over this afternoon. You know, my dad, if Tranmere were not playing at home, he'd have a look and he said, well, Everton have got a good game on, or Liverpool got a good game, I'll go over. And he would go with a mate, you know. You could do that. So, anyway, and because you couldn't see the ground because there were no floodlights. The floodlights didn't come along till the following season, you know. So if you had a rearranged game late in the season, it would kick off at 6 o'clock or 6:15, something like that. Be over by 8 o'clock. So anyway, and you approached the ground and you know the Prenton Park Hotel, the pub. Well, in them days it was called the Prenton Hotel. And opposite the Prenton Hotel, there will be a row of blue double-decker corporation buses, maybe 6, waiting to take people back to Bevington or Port Sunlight or Heswell or whatever, you know, Rock Ferry, whatever. They'd probably brought people in and they were just waiting to take them home again. So there'd be half a dozen buses. You used to put specials on. Do you remember the buses had an open platform at the back and a double-deckers, and you'd get in, and if you went into the lower saloon, as it was called, over the wheels at the back, they had long seats sideways so that, you know, you were looking at each other. And you get 3 or 4 people on them. And behind the back of the seat, over on the wheel arch, there was like a shelf. And they used to put these cards on about the Tuesday of the week. They'd have a card in there. Football at Prenton Park. Saturday, 17th of March. 3rd Division North, Tranmere Rovers versus Southport or whatever. Tell you how much it was to get in. And they did it for the reserves as well. And I remember those cards. Oh yeah, they were a good bit of advertising, like, you know. And then you went into Prenton Road West and round the back, and because my first games, like we went in the stand. So I mean, the stand wasn't very big. You know, I mean, I don't know what it held, 250? I don't know, more than that probably, but it didn't hold many. And it was all wooden, and it was about 60 years old then because they'd bought it from someone else. And they had about 8 rows, and it was just long wooden benches. So we went in, and I was, I thought it was great, and I loved it, But that's the thing, It's that thing about what grabs you, and it's that whole thing of all the experience of all those people and the noise and the colour and everything. And then I suppose my first hero there was Tommy Eglinton, Ego, left winger, came from Everton when Peter Farrell came from Everton to be player manager in I don't know 56, and Ego came with him. And he was called Flash as well. That was his nickname. And he was great. He was like lightning, And he became a butcher in Dublin because he played for the Republic. But he was a good player, and he was my first real hero, Ego. And it was great, Oh dear. And I think the following year, 57, 58. That was the last year of the regional third divisions, and I went to a few more games the second year. I only went to a couple the first year, but they had to finish in the top half of the third division north to be in the new third division. If you're in the bottom half, bottom 12, you're in the fourth. And it came to the last week of the season. Well, the season finished on a Saturday, and there were some rearranged games. There was us and Wrexham. Carlisle were playing. I think they were playing York. No, they weren't playing York. Anyway, there were 2 or 3 games to be finished off. And it came to, we were playing Wrexham on the Tuesday night. We had to win to be in the top 12. Because before the game, we were like 13th. York were 12th, Wrexham were 11th. And so, there was 19,000 there, the biggest crowd for a league game that they ever got. They reckon about 7,000 came over from Wrexham. And that was unheard of in those days, And they were coming by cars and trains and all sorts. And there was such a crush. The police said, you can't let any more in. And they reckon there were at least 5,000 locked out. This is for a game to decide if you're going to be in the third division, by the way. So anyway, Tranmere won. Tranmere won 2-1. They were battered. Wrexham were all over them. And we got a penalty. Ego got a penalty. And then we had a breakaway. And a Wrexham fullback went to clear the ball, and it hit a Tranmere player on the leg and went in the net. And then they pulled one back, but we held on. So we got in the third. And then Wrexham had to wait for another game, I think probably on the Wednesday. That must have been the Tuesday. So Carlisle could still finish ahead of Wrexham. They had a game on the Wednesday night, and they didn't. I think they drew. So Wrexham finished 12th. So we were both in the third division, And but we only lasted 2 or 3 seasons. We ended up in the fourth. But no, it was great. It was amazing. And then but like I was saying before, you could just decide to go. See, so I was about 8. And one Saturday morning, my dad said to me, I said, we're going to go and see the best team in England today. And I thought, well, Tranmere are away, what are we doing? And he said, no. So we're going to go and see Wolves. So Wolves were playing Everton at Goodison Park, and we just went. And Wolves were a great team. They were a great. I mean, they were unlucky not to win the double there. They won the league, and they won the cup, and then they missed out on the league on goal average. It was then. They divided the number of goals you'd conceded into the number of goals you'd scored. I don't know how they decided to do that. But that's what they did anyway. So Wolves were a great team. They had the captain of England playing for them, which was one of the reasons my dad wanted to go. He wanted me to see Billy Wright. Finlayson in goal, Norman Dealey on the right wing, Peter Broadbent, what a player he was. Great player. And yeah, they were far too good for Everton. And another time, when Liverpool were in Division 2, he said, we're going over to Anfield today because they're playing Stoke and Stan Matthews might be playing. So you could tell he wasn't from Stoke because a Stoke person would have called him Stanley. They always called him Stanley in Stoke, but he was, Anyway, we went. Liverpool had just won the championship of Division 2, and this was the first game after they'd clinched it. But Stan didn't play, but it was a good game. I enjoyed it. And we stood on the side where now the Kemlyn Road stand is, where it was terracing then. They had the main stand, and then all the rest was terracing at Anfield. So anyway, that was you could just do that, and it was great, and that's how I came into football. That's how it started, And I remember taking my lad when he was 6, and my daughter came too. I've seen good and bad, But when you've supported them for 67 years, you've seen good and bad, You've seen worse than they've got now. Honestly. We had to apply for re-election quite a lot of times when we'd have just gone out the league if we hadn't been re-elected. So, I'm just glad they're there. I love the club. And, you don't go for 60 odd years unless you do you? So anyway, it's been good talking to you. And I'll see you again sometime. All the best.